Karen's fist slammed against the wooden door, the sound echoing through the quiet suburban street. Her eyes burned with rage as she glared at the house number, confirming she had the right address. "I know you're in there, you thieving little troll," she screeched, pounding the door again. "Open up and give me back my garden gnome." Inside, Samantha froze, her heart pounding. She had been admiring the whimsical garden ornament on her porch when Karen, her next-door neighbor, had come storming over, face twisted in fury. "It's mine. I bought it fair and square," Samantha had protested, to no avail. Karen had snatched the gnome and stomped off, ranting about how Samantha had no right to steal her property. Now, Samantha peered nervously through the window, watching Karen's manic tirade continue. She debated whether to open the door, knowing it would only escalate the confrontation. But the gnome was hers, and she refused to back down. Taking a deep breath, Samantha steeled her nerves and pulled open the door. "Karen, please calm down. This is my gnome, not yours." "Liar." Karen spat, shoving past Samantha into the house. "I saw you take it from my yard. Now, where are you hiding it?" Samantha stumbled backward, horrified by Karen's violation of her home. "Get out of my house," she demanded, her voice quavering. "I'm calling the police." Karen whirled around, eyes narrowed to slits. "Go ahead, call them. But I'm not leaving without my gnome." She stalked through the living room, yanking open closet doors and peering under furniture. Samantha watched in disbelief, her panic rising. What was she supposed to do? This was her home, her sanctuary, and Karen was treating it like her own personal domain. Samantha had to put a stop to this. Karen stopped this immediately. She shouted, her voice quivering with a mixture of fear and outrage. "You have no right to barge in here and destroy my home. Get out, or I'll have you arrested for trespassing." Karen paused, her gaze settling on Samantha. "Trespassing? Hey, you're the one who stole my property. I'm just taking back what's mine." "It's not yours," Samantha cried, her composure crumbling. "I bought that gnome fair and square. You have no claim to it." "We'll see about that," Karen growled, resuming her search. She rummaged through cabinets, sending dishes clattering to the floor, heedless of the destruction she was causing. Samantha watched in horror, her hands trembling. This woman was a tornado of chaos, and Samantha felt powerless to stop her. But she couldn't let Karen keep tearing apart her home. Steeling her nerves, she reached for the phone, her fingers punching in the emergency number. As the call connected, Samantha's eyes met Karen's, and she saw a flash of panic in the other woman's expression. Karen froze, realizing the gravity of the situation she had created. "This is 911. What's your emergency?" The operator's voice crackled through the receiver. Samantha took a deep breath, her voice steadier than she felt. "Hello, my name is Samantha. I have an intruder in my home who is refusing to leave. Please send the police immediately." Karen's face twisted in a snarl, and Samantha knew she had just ignited a firestorm. This was only the beginning. The wail of sirens pierced the air as two police cruisers pulled up outside Samantha's house. Karen's eyes darted to the window, panic flashing across her face. "This isn't over," she growled, shoving past Samantha and rushing toward the front door. But before she could reach the handle, it swung open, and two uniformed officers stepped inside. "Ma'am, we received a call about an intruder. What's the situation here?" The taller officer asked, his gaze shifting between Karen and Samantha. Samantha straightened her shoulders, her voice steady as she recounted the events. "This woman, Karen, barged into my home and is refusing to leave. She's been rummaging through my belongings, and she claims I stole a garden gnome from her." The officers turned to Karen, who stood glaring defiantly. "Is this true, ma'am?" "It's my gnome," Karen insisted, her face flushed with anger. "That woman stole it from my yard, and I came to get it back." The shorter officer frowned, his brow furrowing. I see. Well, ma'am, that doesn't give you the right to enter someone's home uninvited and cause a disturbance. Karen's eyes widened, and she sputtered in outrage. But it's my property. I have a right to. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises immediately, the taller officer interrupted, his tone firm. You're trespassing, and if you refuse to cooperate, we'll have to place you under arrest. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, her indignation palpable. Samantha watched, a mixture of relief and trepidation flooding her. Though she was glad the officers were on her side, she couldn't help but worry about the potential fallout from this confrontation. Finally, Karen seemed to realize the futility of her argument. With a huff, she stalked toward the door, pausing to level a venomous glare at Samantha. This isn't over, she spat. I'm going to make sure you pay for this. As Karen stormed out, the officers turned to Samantha, their expressions sympathetic. Ma'am, are you all right? Did she harm you or damage anything in your home? Samantha shook her head, her nerves still frayed. No, I'm fine, but she made a mess searching for the gnome. And I'm worried about what she might do next. The taller officer nodded, his brow furrowed in concern. We understand your worries. We'll make sure to file a report and keep an eye on the situation. In the meantime, don't hesitate to call us if Karen causes any more trouble. Samantha nodded, her shoulders sagging with relief. As the officers exited, she sank onto the couch, her hands trembling. The adrenaline was slowly wearing off, leaving her feeling drained and unsettled. What was Karen capable of? Samantha knew the woman had a reputation for being difficult and confrontational, but this level of aggression was beyond anything she'd expected. And the way Karen had threatened her, it sent a chill down Samantha's spine. She stared at the front door, half expecting Karen to come storming back in. But the minutes ticked by intense silence, and Samantha allowed herself to breathe a little easier. For now, the crisis had been averted, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the calm before the storm. The next few days passed in a haze of unease for Samantha. She found herself constantly on edge, jumping at every unfamiliar sound or unexpected knock at the door. The confrontation with Karen weighed heavily on her mind, and she couldn't shake the dread that her neighbor might retaliate. Samantha had dutifully reported the incident to the police, who assured her they would keep an eye on the situation. But as the days stretched on without any further contact from Karen, Samantha began to wonder if perhaps the ordeal was truly over. That hope was shattered one morning when Samantha opened her front door to find a yellow envelope taped to it. Her heart sank as she recognized Karen's looping script on the envelope's surface. Hands trembling, Samantha peeled off the envelope and tore it open, her eyes scanning the contents. It was a cease and desist letter, demanding that she return the stolen garden gnome immediately or face legal action. Samantha let out a shaky breath, her mind racing. She had expected Karen to retaliate, but this was more than she had bargained for. A cease and desist letter was a serious legal threat, and Samantha knew she couldn't ignore it. Pushing down her rising panic, Samantha reached for the phone and dialed the number for the local police station. She explained the situation to the officer on the other end, her voice trembling. This woman is harassing me over a garden gnome. I have a cease and desist letter, and I'm worried she might escalate things further. What should I do? The officer listened intently, his brow furrowed in concern. Ma'am, I understand this is a stressful situation. The best thing to do is to keep documenting everything. Save the letter, take photos of any other interactions, and keep us informed. We'll make sure to have extra patrols in your neighborhood. Samantha nodded, relief flooding her. Thank you, officer. I'll be sure to keep you updated. I'm scared of what Karen might do next. We'll do everything we can to protect you, ma'am, the officer assured her. In the meantime, I'd suggest speaking to a lawyer about your options. This woman's behavior is clearly harassment, and you may have grounds for a restraining order. Samantha mulled over the officer's words, her mind whirling. A restraining order. The idea both terrified and comforted her. On one hand, it would provide her with much-needed legal protection, but on the other, it would escalate the conflict even further. As Samantha hung up the phone, she stared at the cease and desist letter, her brow furrowed in thought. She couldn't back down. This was her home, her sanctuary, and she refused to be bullied by Karen's outrageous demands. But the stakes were higher now, and Samantha knew she had to tread carefully. Steeling her nerves, she made a decision. She would speak to a lawyer, explore her options, and take whatever steps were necessary to protect herself and her home. Karen had pushed this too far, and Samantha was determined to put an end to her harassment, once and for all. The office of the local civil rights lawyer was a haven of calm, a stark contrast to the turmoil Samantha felt inside. As she sat across from the middle-aged attorney, her hands fidgeted nervously on the armrests of the plush chair. "So, let me make sure I have all the details straight," the lawyer, Evelyn, said, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Your neighbor, Karen, has accused you of stealing a garden gnome from her property, and she's now sent you a cease and desist letter threatening legal action." Samantha nodded, her throat tight. "Yes, that's right. And she also barged into my home, searching for the gnome and causing a disturbance. The police were called, and they sided with me, but now I'm worried she might escalate things further." Evelyn hummed thoughtfully, her pen tapping against the legal pad in front of her. This is certainly a concerning situation. Based on what you've described, it seems like Karen's behavior could potentially constitute harassment, trespassing, and possibly even vandalism. Samantha felt a flicker of hope. "So, you think I have a case? Can I get a restraining order or something to protect myself?" Evelyn's expression turned sympathetic. "Well, it's certainly possible, but a restraining order is a fairly serious legal measure. We'd need to demonstrate a pattern of harassment and a credible threat to your safety. And given the contentious nature of this dispute, it could potentially escalate the situation even further." Samantha's shoulders sagged. "I was afraid of that. I don't know what to do. Karen is making my life a living hell, and I'm worried about what she might do next." "I understand your concerns," Evelyn said gently. "Let's explore some other options first. Have you considered mediation or negotiation with Karen? Sometimes, getting a neutral third party involved can help diffuse these kinds of disputes." Samantha shook her head, her brow furrowed. "Mediation. I don't think that would work with Karen. She's so unreasonable, and I'm worried any attempt to negotiate would just make her even more angry." Evelyn nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I see. Well, in that case, we may need to take a more aggressive legal approach. I'd recommend sending a strongly worded cease and desist letter of your own, outlining the harassment and trespassing, and making it clear that you'll pursue legal action if she continues to interfere with your property or your right to peaceful enjoyment of your home." Samantha felt a surge of determination. "Okay, let's do that. I'm not going to let Karen bully me out of my own home." Evelyn offered her a reassuring smile. "Good. And if that doesn't work, we can certainly discuss the possibility of a restraining order or other legal remedies. But let's start with this and see if we can nip this in the bud before it escalates further." As Samantha left the lawyer's office, she felt a glimmer of hope. With Evelyn's guidance, she might finally be able to put an end to Karen's harassment and reclaim the peace and sanctity of her own home. A few days after her meeting with the lawyer, Samantha received another unexpected visitor. This time, it was a federal agent, flashing a badge and demanding to speak with her. Samantha's heart raced as she ushered the agent inside, her mind whirling with questions. What could the FBI possibly want with her? "Ma'am, I'm Agent Harris with the Federal Bureau of Investigation," the agent said, his tone clipped and professional. "We've received some concerning information regarding your neighbor, Karen, and we'd like to ask you a few questions." Samantha's eyes widened, and she felt a chill run down her spine. Karen, what's she done? Agent Harris pulled a file from his briefcase, his expression grave. It appears your neighbor is involved in a larger investigation into tax evasion and money laundering. We've been monitoring her activities for some time, and your recent encounter with her has raised some red flags. Samantha felt her knees grow weak, and she sank into a nearby chair, her head spinning. Tax evasion, money laundering? But how is that connected to me? Well, ma'am, that's what we're trying to determine, the agent said, his gaze piercing. According to our information, Karen has been targeting several of her neighbors, harassing them over petty disputes as a way to distract from her own illegal activities. Samantha felt a wave of nausea wash over her. You mean, she's using me as a smokescreen to cover up her crimes? Agent Harris nodded, his expression grim. It appears that way, and we believe her confrontation with you over the garden gnome may have been an attempt to provoke a response that could potentially implicate you in her schemes. Samantha's hands trembled as she processed this information. So, what does this mean for me? Am I in trouble? Not at all, ma'am, the agent reassured her. In fact, we'd like your cooperation in helping us bring Karen to justice. Anything you can tell us about her behavior, her interactions with you, or any suspicious activities you've noticed could be invaluable to our investigation. Samantha felt a surge of relief mixed with a sense of trepidation. On one hand, the idea of taking down Karen's criminal enterprise was satisfying, but on the other, she couldn't help but worry about the potential consequences. I'll do whatever I can to help, she said, her voice steady. But I'm still scared of what Karen might do if she finds out I'm working with the FBI. Agent Harris offered her a reassuring nod. We understand your concerns, ma'am, but we'll make sure you're protected throughout this process. Karen's actions have put you in an extremely difficult position, and we want to make sure you don't suffer any further because of her misdeeds. Samantha took a deep breath, steeling her nerves. Okay then, what do you need from me? As the agent began outlining the details of the investigation, Samantha felt a strange mix of dread and determination. She was about to become a key player in taking down her neighbor's criminal empire, and she knew that the consequences could be dire. Over the next few weeks, Samantha found herself navigating a delicate dance between cooperating with the FBI and trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy in her daily life. Agent Harris had been true to his word, assuring her that she would be protected throughout the investigation, but the weight of her newfound responsibilities weighed heavily on her. Whenever Karen came around, Samantha had to be careful to maintain her composure, resisting the urge to react to the woman's taunts and threats. She knew that any misstep could jeopardize the FBI's case, and she couldn't bear the thought of her actions leading to Karen's eventual escape from justice. One day, as Samantha was tending to her garden, she heard the familiar sound of Karen's car pulling into the driveway. Steeling herself, she turned to face her neighbor, who was striding toward her with a smug grin. Well, if it isn't my favorite garden gnome thief, Karen sneered, her eyes narrowed. I have a feeling you've been up to something, Samantha. Something that the authorities might find interesting. Samantha felt her heart race, but she forced herself to remain calm. I don't know what you're talking about, Karen. I've done nothing wrong. Oh, really? Karen's smile widened, and Samantha could see a glint of triumph in her eyes. Because I've been doing a little digging of my own, and it seems like you've been cozying up to the FBI. Trying to get me in trouble, are we? Samantha's stomach twisted with dread, but she refused to back down. I have no idea what you're talking about, Karen. If you have a problem with me, take it up with the authorities. I'm not going to be bullied by you anymore. Karen's expression darkened, and she took a step closer, her finger jabbing at Samantha's chest. You listen to me, you little snake. If you think you can just waltz in and ruin my life, you've got another thing coming. I won't let you take everything away from me. Samantha felt a surge of courage. Everything you've done, all the illegal activities you've been involved in, That's your own fault, Karen. I'm not the one who put you in this position. If you're facing consequences, it's because of your own actions, not mine." Karen's face flushed with rage, and she opened her mouth to retort, but before she could, the sound of sirens pierced the air. Samantha's heart leaped as she watched Karen's expression turn to one of pure panic. "What's this?" Karen hissed, her eyes darting around frantically. Samantha couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction as she watched the tables turn. "I think that's the authorities coming to have a word with you, Karen. You should probably get going." As the police cars pulled up and armed agents swarmed the scene, Samantha couldn't help but feel a mix of relief and trepidation. She knew that this was just the beginning, and that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges and danger. But for now, she felt a sense of vindication, knowing that Karen's reign of terror was finally coming to an end. The commotion outside Samantha's home was nothing short of chaotic. Sirens blared, agents in tactical gear swarmed the neighborhood, and a panicked Karen was dragged from her home in handcuffs, her shrieks of protest echoing through the streets. Samantha watched the scene unfold from her living room window, a mixture of relief and trepidation swirling within her. On one hand, she was grateful to see Karen finally facing the consequences of her actions. But on the other, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease, knowing that she had played a pivotal role in bringing her neighbor down. As the agents began cataloging evidence and sealing off Karen's property, Agent Harris approached Samantha's door, his expression grave. "Ma'am, I need to speak with you again," he said, his voice low and serious. Samantha nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She ushered the agent inside, her hands trembling slightly. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice laced with apprehension. Agent Harris sighed heavily. "We've uncovered some disturbing information about the extent of Karen's criminal activities. It goes far deeper than we initially suspected." Samantha felt a chill run down her spine. "How deep are we talking about?" "Money laundering, tax evasion, fraud, and that's just the tip of the iceberg," the agent revealed, his brow furrowed. "We've also discovered connections to organized crime syndicates, which means this investigation has now turned into a matter of national security." Samantha's eyes widened in shock. "Oh my God, does that mean I'm in danger?" Agent Harris nodded gravely. "I'm afraid so, ma'am. Karen and her associates have powerful, dangerous connections, and they may try to retaliate against you for your cooperation with the investigation." Samantha swallowed hard, her mind racing. "What do I do? How can you protect me?" "We're taking every precaution to ensure your safety," the agent assured her. "We've set up round-the-clock surveillance, and you'll be provided with a security detail to escort you whenever you leave your home. But you must be vigilant and report any suspicious activity immediately." Samantha nodded, her hands clenched into tight fists. "I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to stay safe." As the agent departed, Samantha felt a wave of dread and uncertainty wash over her. She had known that cooperating with the FBI would come with risks, but she never imagined the depth of Karen's criminal connections or the danger she now faced. Pacing her living room, Samantha tried to calm her nerves, but the weight of the situation was overwhelming. She had put her trust in the authorities, believing that they could protect her, but now she realized that she was caught in the crosshairs of a much larger and more sinister web. With a heavy heart, Samantha knew that there was no turning back. She had made her choice, and now she had to face the consequences, whatever they may be. All she could do was brace herself for the storm that was about to hit, and pray that she would have the strength to weather it. In the days that followed, Samantha's life was turned upside down as the fallout from Karen's arrest unfolded. The FBI had placed her under 24/7 surveillance, and a team of armed agents now accompanied her whenever she left her home. The presence of the security detail was both a comfort and a source of constant anxiety for Samantha. On one hand, she knew that they were there to protect her, but on the other, their very existence was a stark reminder of the danger she now faced. Samantha's every move was scrutinized, and she found herself constantly on edge, jumping at every unexpected sound or shadow. She knew that Karen's associates were still out there, and the thought of them coming after her filled her with dread. As the investigation progressed, more and more details emerged about the depth of Karen's criminal activities. It was a web of deceit and corruption that stretched far beyond the confines of their quiet suburban neighborhood, and Samantha was now at the heart of it all. One day, as Samantha was sitting on her porch, sipping a cup of tea and trying to find a moment of peace, a black sedan pulled up at the end of her driveway. Her heart leaped into her throat as she watched a well-dressed man emerge from the vehicle, his gaze fixed on her. Samantha quickly retreated into the house, her hands trembling. She could feel the eyes of her security detail boring into her, and she knew they were poised to spring into action at the slightest sign of trouble. Moments later, the doorbell rang, and Samantha appeared out the window, her breath catching in her throat. The man from the sedan was standing on her doorstep, his expression inscrutable. Summoning her courage, Samantha opened the door, her voice trembling. "Can I help you?" The man's lips curled into a thin smile. "Miss Samantha, I believe we have some matters to discuss." Samantha felt a chill run down her spine, but she refused to back down. "I have nothing to say to you. Please leave my property immediately, or I'll have the agents escort you off." The man's smile widened, and he took a step closer. "Oh, I don't think that will be necessary. You see, I'm here to offer you a proposition." Samantha's eyes narrowed, her heart pounding in her chest. "I'm not interested in anything you have to say. Now, get off my property before I call the FBI." The man raised his hands in a placating gesture. Now, let's not be hasty. I think you'll find my offer quite compelling." Samantha stood her ground, her gaze unwavering. "I don't care what you have to offer. I'm not going to be a part of your criminal enterprise, and I won't be intimidated. Now, leave, or I'll have you arrested." The man's expression darkened, and for a moment, Samantha feared he might retaliate. But then, he simply nodded, his lips curling into a sardonic smile. "Very well, Miss Samantha. But remember, the offer still stands. And if you change your mind, you know where to find me." With that, the man turned and strode back to his car, leaving Samantha to grapple with the weight of her decision and the uncertainty of the days to come.